welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you guys are doing well today. Today we're here for part 2 of the Fulton Local, and we're picking up for our work in Shifnal. Today we're going to go ahead and finish up the switching in Shifnal. We have finished with Williams Tool. We just need to work the local track and the iron mine, and then we will be heading up the rest of the way to Fulton. We'll work Fulton in return, and then we'll cover the trip back all the way to Billery. So we do have one more meet that we have to have here in Shifnal before we can proceed. So we'll stay tuned for that, do a little bit of rail fanning. But for the rest of it, let's enjoy some nice, comfortable, calm scenes of switching. Well, now we meet the northbound way freight, very similar to the southbound in the sense that it works the farming and co-op facilities between Coxton and Johnsville. It also works the salt mine just south of Rockwell. So this train is mostly full of covered hoppers of all types, 2-bay, 3-bay, Trinities, Evans, ACFs, dry flows, you name it, they're all in here. Mostly full of fertilizer, feed, and grain, and occasionally empty, of course, to be loaded at these co-ops. So always long, heavy, and usually slow trains. And of course, here we are, still in Shifnal, moving nice and slow, getting ready to back into the yard and finish up our switching. Fortunately for us today, we had enough space for our 4 setouts, I guess, for the local track. That's a bit much for this track. Usually we don't have this many setouts, but we had just enough space. Typically, if we end up with not enough space on this little spur here, what we do is we put either 1 or 2 cars back here in the foreground on the left where these 2 stock cars are that we left earlier. So now we're going to go ahead and cut in front of the tank car, leave these 4 cars here, and that will complete our local moves for the local track here in Shifnal, and then we'll start getting our cars sorted for the return trip and head over to the iron mine. All right, so the way I think we're going to do this move is pull all of our cars out, and I think probably the best thing we can do is go ahead and shove them back behind the camera here to the left through this crossover onto the siding. And then that will allow us to have a moment to run around the iron ore hoppers, because we're going to have to shove those. And then by doing so, we can, in the same process, in the same move, I guess, go ahead and grab these and then pull them back into the yard, and we will leave them in the yard for when we come back. We are not going to take these cars with us to Fulton. All right, once we grab our caboose, we'll be ready to shove back and pick up the cars we left back there on the siding, and then we'll pull them right up back and get the locomotive on the other side of those iron ore cars. All right, we're going to go ahead and leave our caboose here so we can go ahead and shove these iron ore coppers, and then when we come back, we'll be ready to grab the box cars and everything as you see sitting there on track 2, connect to the caboose, and head on to Fulton. Alright, so we have now connected to the iron ore cars. You can see that our trailing weight is about 1,080 tons. That's for 9 cars of iron ore, so that's about 120 tons per car. That's not 120 tons of ore, but 120 tons total per car. To be fair, these are probably 70-ton capacity cars. That's probably a little heavy, but we're not going to fret over too much. The fact of the matter is, regardless, iron ore we know is heavy, and we're going to see just how tough it can be for this locomotive to get started. I don't suspect it'll be too crazy, but we'll find out. Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all for our trusty old Jeep 9. Well, it doesn't matter too much for this particular situation, but we just barely fit on that track and managed to stay clear of track 2. There's not any other action that's going to happen here, so it doesn't really matter if we're clear or not. However, on any given day, it is nice to be clear of that switch if possible. All right, well, we're finally ready to head out to Fulton. So we've got 5 cars in our caboose. All we're waiting on now is a clear signal from the dispatcher, and we are good to go. We will observe a maximum speed of 40 miles an hour for all freight trains on the subdivision. So even though the speed sign tells us we can go 65, we are never going to hit that unless we are like a hot train, intermodal, or like a piggyback kind of train. Here we are easing our way through Summit. This is the highest control point on the route between Shifnal and Fulton. This is also where those 2 way freights met earlier. It's about 6 miles or so to the south of Shifnal. And so as one passed us and continued south, it met the other, which then continued north and met us in Fulton. Well, this is the last little S-curve before we reach the town of Fulton. Once we get into Fulton, we're going to go ahead and come into town on the main, and then we'll stop around the station area and start trying to get a grip on what all work we have today. Well, here's where most of the industry or local spurs in Fulton are concentrated. So we have 5 cars here and we have a reefer behind the camera. We're going to go ahead and go grab all 5 of these cars by pulling our whole train forward and shoving back so that those 5 cars end up on the other side of the caboose. And then once we do that, we'll go ahead and get those out of the way, leave them up on the main, and get all the set outs done here at these spurs. And then we'll go ahead and see how we're going to do a runaround in order to go get the perishable spur where the reefer is, because we've got to get on the other side of our reefer in order to set it out over there. So we'll see when it's time how we're going to figure that out. But for now, we're going to clear these 5 cars out and put our set outs in their place. All right. Well, like is typical on the railroad, we realize that we have a little change of plans here. So we realize that we can take our locomotive and grab that UP reefer in the background there. By doing so right now, that reefer will be on the correct side of the locomotive for the return trip. And then since our other reefer is sitting right in front of the caboose, which means we got really lucky today, we can go ahead and once we get all these cars set out, if we just leave that reefer where he is, then once our new train is built, we can just back that reefer right up into his spot where that yellow one is. So it turns out this is going to make for a very easy day. And stay tuned as we complete and watch those moves. All right, now that we've got those 5 cars picked up, we're going to shove out onto the main. Go ahead and pull everything with us forward and get those 5 cars and the caboose set out between this switch that we're on right now and the switch that you see up there closer to the locomotive. That way, here in a little bit, we'll be able to successfully run around. Alright, now we've got it all set. We are going to put this box car, the high Q box car, at the very back where the lumber is delivered. And then next up will be setting out the stock car, the grain car, and then, which by the way, that grain car is over there on the left, and then our blue box car. After that, we'll be ready to make our final move for the reefers. All right, we're going to go ahead and push forward. These 3 cars in front, we will go ahead and reconnect to the train that's on the main. And we will kind of shove clear of everything where we're currently at. And then that will allow us to push the reefer back where it goes, way in the back. And push these 3 cars up in front and set them out. And then we will be clear to contact the dispatcher and let them know that we are ready to head out of Fulton. Well, the dispatcher is most certainly eager to get us out of Fulton, so he goes ahead and gives us the diversion clear to get out of Fulton and head back to the north. Just for some context, we are currently pulling 210 tons because every single car is empty. Now you see why we only use 1 locomotive for this train. Well, here we are on the 1 remaining stone bridge here on the Coxton sub. Within the last 10 years, the railroad has spent a lot of time replacing all the expensive stone bridges with cheaper steel ones, except this one. Well, finally, we're here at Shiftle, and we are going to go pick up the cars we left earlier from all of our work. Once we grab those, all we have left to do is pull forward, reconnect to our train, and we'll be ready to continue on to the north back to Billary. Well, as this train heads to the north back to Billary in order to terminate for the day, just wanted to say thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. This was part 2 of the Fulton Local. We worked Shiftle in part 1, with the exception of just a few industries, and then we went ahead and made the trip to Fulton, worked all of Fulton and returned, and, you know, taking away some ideas from Fulton. You can notice that there's a reason why the dispatcher never lets 2 trains in there. There's just hardly enough space even for 1. But thanks again for joining today. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel for future updates and for new content. Thanks a lot, and we will see you guys next time.